Throughout the years, Lake Tahoe has attracted trappers and traders, Pony Express riders and overland stagecoaches, immigrants, gamblers, lumberjacks, steamboat captains, and scores of others. The first people in the Lake Tahoe area were the Washoe tribe. The Washoe spent their summers at this lake, which they called Tauaga. This name was later misheard by settlers, and a version of the Washoe term became the English name for the lake, Tahoe. During their summers here, the Washoe sustained themselves on the large cutthroat trout, freshwater clams, and other fish in the lakes and streams in the area. They also collected a wide variety of plants for utilitarian and medicinal uses. According to their tradition, they've been here since the beginning, and Lake Tahoe is the center of the Washoe world, both geographically and spiritually. In 1844, noted pathfinder John C. Fremont reported the sighting of a large lake in a remote part of the High Sierra. For years after Fremont recorded his sighting of the lake, the area remained unchanged. With the discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill in 1848 on the western slope of the Sierra came thousands of settlers from the eastern United States with gold fever. These early gold seekers traveled through the Carson Valley, on wagon roads around the mountains surrounding Lake Tahoe, leaving the basin relatively untouched during the height of the gold rush frenzy. During this time, the permanent population remained small, and the Washoe continued to come to their summer home near the South Shore. It wasn't until 1859, when rich veins of gold and silver were discovered near Virginia City, Nevada, that the Lake Tahoe Basin began to see its first real growth. A reverse migration of disillusioned miners traveled east by the South Shore on the rugged Bonanza Road from Placerville to Carson City. The Tahoe Basin was just a stop on the road, and way stations sprang up along the way. Weary travelers could find hot food, good company, and a place to rest before continuing on to the Comstock. As the frenzied mining activity increased, miners looked toward the heavily forested slopes of the Tahoe Basin for wood supplies. Lumber was needed to shore up mines, build houses, and to fire the boilers of steam engines. Relentless logging operations began in the 1870s that eventually stripped nearly all the shores surrounding Lake Tahoe. Flumes transported timber from the forest to the lake, and large rafts of logs were boomed to sawmills in Glenbrook, Nevada. There, the lumber was hauled by train to Spooner Summit and flumed again into Carson City. The arrival of the settlers and the environmental impact of the logging and mining industries in the area displaced the Washoe and changed their way of life forever. For some 60 years, beginning in the 1880s, the Lake Tahoe Basin served as a recreation playground for the wealthy. The pace of development was slow at first, with only a few large estates and several family-oriented resorts. During the 1890s, these summer resorts flourished, and vacationers flocked to the lake each summer. Lake Tahoe became the place to vacation, especially for people from San Francisco. It was during this period that Elias J. Baldwin, known as Lucky, acquired all the land between Taylor Creek and the Upper Truckee River. Here he converted a moderately priced hostelry, called Yank's Place, into an exclusive hotel called the Tallac Point House. He later added what was considered one of the finest hotels in the world, the Tallac Hotel. The two hotels were connected by a walkway, or promenade. Finally, he added a casino, complete with a bowling alley, ladies' billiards, sunrooms, French mirrors, and 500 electric lights. The glory days of the luxurious resorts were short-lived, however, and some of the most exclusive closed. The original Tallac Point House was lost in a fire. After Lucky's death in 1909 and the loss of longtime managers Comstock and Lawrence, Lucky's daughter Anita Baldwin had the Tallac Hotel and Casino torn down due to financial and environmental concerns. Today, only some of the foundations remain. Following the big boom in summer resorts came a time of relative quiet for the lake. During the Roaring Twenties, many wealthy people built large summer estates on the shores of the lake, complete with servants' quarters, guest cottages, boathouses, and stables. Their homes were quite large and rustic-looking, but showcased the wealth of the families who built them with a touch of class. Several of these summer homes were built on the South Shore in an area now managed by the U.S. Forest Service. This area, known as the Tallac Historic Site, is composed of the remains of the Tallac Resort and 3 large summer estates. It was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986 for its historic and architectural significance. One of the site's summer homes was built by Dextra Baldwin McGonigal, the granddaughter of Lucky Baldwin. Her mother Anita inherited the property and deeded 6 acres to each of her 2 children. Dextra had this home built in 1921 and spent her summers here until her death in 1967. 2 years later, title passed to the Forest Service for $650,000. The main house is fashioned after a Scandinavian U-shaped form of architecture. This form was self-contained, usually having a well, garden, and front gate. The house itself was built on a sound foundation with cedar supports and an interior made of hand-adzed wood. Although the exterior suggests quiet and simple pleasures, in the 1950s Dextra often redecorated the interior with bright reds, yellows, and greens. The Baldwin Estate has been designated as the Tallac Site's Educational and Cultural Center. The building has been restored to its rustic 1920s look, and exhibits and displays are representative of the region throughout history. The Pope Estate is the next group of buildings to the east of the Baldwin summer home. The main house was built by George Talant in 1894 and sold to the Lloyd Tevis family in 1899. The Tevises added most of the buildings you see today. It wasn't until 1923 that the lumber and shipping magnate George Pope became the owner of the property. The estate boasts of an arboretum started by the Tevises, with a pond, gazebo, and many non-native trees and plants. During the Pope's ownership, it is said that 10 gardeners were employed just to take care of the arboretum. This elegant summer estate has hand-rolled leaded glass windows, numerous fireplaces, a huge built-in hand-carved redwood bookcase, and a coffered cedar entry ceiling. Many rooms were decorated with French linen wall cloth held in place with small brass tacks. Due to high maintenance costs, the estate was sold to the Forest Service for $750,000 in 1965. The Pope Estate has been designated as the interpretive center for the site, and the buildings have been extensively restored for this purpose. The Tallac Site's knowledgeable volunteers offer interpretive tours of the Pope House 6 days a week during the summer. The estate is also the site of many of Tallac's interactive and living history programs, sharing stories of the past with visitors of all ages. The final estate, known as Valhalla, was built by Walter Heller in 1923. The outstanding feature of this house is the massive fireplace built by a local stonemason. The Hellers used this home as a vacation hideaway until sold by Claire Heller in 1955. Subsequently, ownership changed hands several times, and in 1965, the South Tahoe Valhalla Corporation purchased the area for a private club. Members of this club celebrated holidays, had picnics and wedding receptions, and stored their boats here until 1971. At this time, due to unsold memberships, the property was transferred to the Forest Service for $550,000. Valhalla is currently used as a community event center. It is presently operated by a forest partner, Valhalla Tahoe. The public enjoys its use for weddings and receptions, and the Valhalla Art, Music, and Theater Festival each summer celebrates performance and visual art against the magnificent backdrop of Lake Tahoe. The preservation of the Tallac Historic Site allows visitors the opportunity for a glimpse into the past, to an era of opulence and luxury in the Lake Tahoe Basin. The early residents who summered here were wealthy society people who came to relax and enjoy the area's natural wonders. Today, visitors from all walks of life come to enjoy the area's historic ambiance and to contribute to its future. The Forest Service partners with the Tahoe Heritage Foundation, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to preserve and protect the cultural heritage and natural history resources of the Lake Tahoe Basin through restoration, interpretation, and education. Tahoe Heritage Foundation coordinates the site's interpretive programs and sells books and other items in the Baldwin Museum store, where proceeds support the foundation's mission. Volunteers for this organization come from all over the United States to donate thousands of hours of talent toward the preservation of the structures and grounds and sharing the area's history with the public. Through the contributions of information and financial gifts, private individuals enable us to present a more accurate picture of the estate's original grandeur. Working together, we can ensure the Tallac Historic Site will be here for the enjoyment of generations to come.